In this video, I'd like to spend a few minutes sharing with you a second way to access some of the library's online content. So in this case, we're going to go from the JCC webpage to the top where it says Library. And again, you'll notice there are several headings and different ways to access content. So we've already in an earlier video looked at how to search the catalog for print materials, and we've already gone under the heading Resources to the Subject Guide to look at some top recommendations for databases and websites. So in this video, we're going to focus on this main search box, the Find It All. So some students like to search using this method because it's comprehensive, which means if we have content on it, it's going to display in your list of results. And also they like this search method because the interface is consistent. So you get used to clicking for this filter or that, and it's the same from search to search. So I want to caution you, we've become used to Google and seeing a search box and typing in a topic and letting it do the search. But with our databases, there are lots of filters that we can apply. So I recommend you get in the habit of looking for advanced search options when you're using many of the library's databases. And so to get to that option, we're going to click on the blue magnifying glass icon at the end of the search box. So when this displays, you'll notice that there are a lot of filters along the left side of the screen, but this still is not the advanced search screen. It is possible for you to click the filters you want in place. Just keep in mind it's a little bit clunky because you have to click on one filter and wait for it to update your list of results, then go down the list to choose the second or third filter, and each time you're waiting for that to update. But if you go in the search box to where it says Options, or you may need to go under the menu icon over here on the right to Advanced, when you do that, you now see all of the filters you have available in one interface, and you can do all of the clicking and choosing before you hit search so that you are certain when you're looking at your results that those meet all of the criteria you need to have in place. So we're going to spend just a minute talking about a couple of these filters that would be appropriate for you to consider for this assignment. So the first is going to be the date range. So we're dealing with myths, we're dealing with folk tales. Those are often very old and deeply rooted in the culture, so it may not be necessary for you to apply a filter, a date range filter. But in other searches, you would want to think about how far back can you go and the content still be considered correct. So this is just a good faith effort, good common sense, recognizing that some topics and areas of study change more quickly than others. So if it is a topic that changes quickly, we probably don't want to go back and have results but so old. Otherwise, the content has become outdated. Okay, so one of the filters we would want in place pretty consistently is for things to be full text online. So the job of the databases is just to make us aware that an article exists, and it can do that simply by giving us the citation. With our searching with Google and other browsers, we're used to doing our search, seeing things linked, and being able to read it on the spot. And so when we choose this filter, our results are going to be those where we can click a link and read the article, or perhaps open a PDF to read the article right there on the spot. The exception here is that databases also do what we've become accustomed to with our streaming video services, in that they will do a trailer, or maybe there will be a notice that on this date such and such program or series will be available. So it is possible that once in a while you will have this filter in place and you'll get in your list of results an article where it's actually only the abstract or the summary of that article. And usually that happens because the article is less than a year old And so once it becomes a year old, the whole thing will be available. So it's very similar to what we are accustomed with our streaming video services. So while we're looking at the category for refining our search, you may, not that it's a requirement for this assignment, but you may hear that your resources need to be peer reviewed in some of your classes. And so I just wanted to highlight that filter while we're on this screen. For this assignment, you're wanting to use things that are credible. And so you want to think about a couple of key points in determining that credibility, such as the date range. Is it still current, up to date? Would it still be considered correct? You want to think about authorship. So is it easy for you to identify the person or the group who's behind the publication? And then you want to consider the purpose in terms of, is this really truly informative? Is it free from bias? Or does the group behind it have a certain maybe political or religious stance that would influence what is published? Or is the agenda really, in addition to giving you some information, to sell you something? So you'd want to consider those couple of things as criteria for the resources you use in this assignment. One of the other things we want to consider is the type of content that we're able to use. And so as I scroll through all that list, you'll see there are things we're not going to be using as a resource for this assignment. I will point out that you could choose with the full text option, the ebook option, and see only ebooks that you could download. So in a way, similarly to what we were talking about early in the first video about trying to peruse general books for a topic or a focus, you could do that same thing here to look at the online versions. But in most cases, you're coming to our databases because you need journal articles. And so what we're going to do is scroll down this list and simply choose the journal article option. We don't want to filter through, search through in our results list, all that other stuff that we're not going to be able to use. So otherwise, those are a couple of considerations for this assignment, but you can sort of browse the other filters and apply others that you may deem are necessary. And the benefit here is that for some assignments, you have a lot of criteria that your articles need to meet. And so this advanced search option with this interface lets you do all the clicking before you actually see your list of results. Whereas the former screen, the one over here with the filters along the side, it is easy to click, and for those classes where you have all those filters, to actually omit clicking one of the filters you need in place and be looking at options in your results list you really cannot use. So we want to go back now to the top for the search bars, and we want to talk a few minutes about how searching in the databases are a little bit different from our search experience with Wikipedia, Google, other web browsers. So if we were out on the web searching in Google, we could type in a whole research question and expect Google to give us some good results. But with the databases, we're going to do this process a little bit differently. We're going to have that broader question, but we want to hone in on the keywords in that question. So we want to think particularly about nouns, people, places, things, and ideas. Or another way you could think about it is, for the topic you have at hand, what kind of hashtags would you be using to describe that topic? So the databases work on this kind of keyword and Boolean operator logic to do our searching, and that's what we're going to focus on for a few moments. So I'm working with Thor, a character from Norse and German mythology, and so we're going to do a practice search here. So to get started, I simply want to put in the main root of my topic. And the reason for that is I want to see just how much is available, okay? How much is published on this topic. And so in this case, we can see that I have a lot of information published. There's over 5,000 results. And when we're new to research, some of us are looking at that number and we're thinking, how relieved we are because we only need 3 for our source chart, 3 sources, and here I've got over 5,000, so surely I should be able to find all the ones I need. And then others of us are thinking about that's a lot of stuff to wade through. And so this is where those Boolean operator terms come into play, because what I want to do next is think about another keyword or other keywords in that broader concept I'm researching that I can add on to amend this search. So the 3 Boolean operators you want to think about are and, or, and not in all capital letters. And when I use them in all capital letters, they become a command to this database that affect the way it processes the search. So I'm going to think about another term from that question, and I'm going to add that on, and then update my list of results. So you'll notice when I do this, I've reduced my number of results significantly, okay? So I want to point out that and works a little bit differently than the way we usually use it in most of our language. We usually think about the and in association with a list, and so we sort of think about it making things grow. But when I use it as an operator, it limits and reduces the number of results that I have. Because now, in order for it to result to show up down here, it has to have both of these terms. And so there obviously are fewer results that have both of those terms than just had the one term. Okay, the next word is or. The next operator is or. It also works a little bit differently than the way we're used to. And so ordinarily we think about or as the word that gives us a choice. So you may think about when you place orders at restaurants, you may be asked something like, would you like Coke or Pepsi? Or would you like a baked potato or fries? We're usually given a choice. And so we sort of translate that into or should be the one that's reducing our number of results, but it's actually the option that expands our results. So you'll see how many times we increase the number of results here. And again, the reason is as long as the word on the left is in an article, it's fair game for it to show up in this list of results. As long as the word on the right is in an article, it's fair game for it to show up in a result. And then finally, the not is going to exclude whatever comes after it. And so Thor being a character from both Norse and German mythology, we're trying now just to focus on where he shows up in these results among the Norse. Okay, so with this, as I refine and keep amending, I'm hoping to get down to a reasonable number of results. And I just want to say, as you get used to searching and relying on Boolean logic, it may be a little bit frustrating to you. It's often frustrating to folks at first, but that's something we as the library staff can help you with. So don't be frustrated. Reach out to us and let us help you with that. So when I've gotten down to a pretty good, reasonable number of results, I want to think about this, again, as not Google, where whatever is in first place I can use off the bat. I can trust it to be a very good match. Even though I'm seeing relevance over here as the way my results are filtered, there are still lots of factors in the background and other criteria that are determining how things are ordered. So I want to get in the habit of scrolling down the list and seeing what is my best bet for the topic that I'm researching, because it may actually be number 5 or it may be on page 2. But once I've done that, determined I've got a good article here, I'm generally going to have 4 options in terms of tools to work with this article. So you'll see in the upper right hand corner, I'm going to always have an option to print. I'm always going to have an option of some kind to save. So either in this case I can download the PDF and save it, or in some databases I can save it to the cloud. I'm going to have an option to email the article to myself. And on that note, I want to point out your article will show up in your inbox from the proxy server that is behind the scenes here. So it's going to show up from something called EP host. So some students in the past have emailed their articles to themselves. They see EP host. They're not really sure what that is, so they don't open it to see that it is their article. I just recommend at this point, if you've gotten this far and you think this is a good article that you're going to use, either go ahead and save it to yourself or email it to yourself and put it in a folder so it's easy to access later without having to go back through all these steps. And then finally, one of our most popular tools is the citation tool. Which allows you to choose your formatting style. In this case, you're using MLA, and it will set up for you a sample citation that you can use on your source chart or on the works cited page for your paper. Okay, so as we finish up looking at this way of searching, I just want to point out to you that there are lots of things on this page that are linked. So if this is a good source, notice that there's some other recommended read-alike articles here in the margin. So don't click and keep clicking to where you jump down the rabbit hole, as the expression goes, but do be conscious that many of the databases are doing this. Be conscious that the author is linked, and a lot of times if an author has written on this topic, it may be a topic of great interest and they've published other articles that are on the similar topic. So you could follow the author and see what else they have written. In many of the databases, the reference list at the end is linked so that you can read the sources that the folks writing this article cited in their article. And in this case, it's not linked, but you could see what they cited and search for that itself. And then finally, we're accustomed in our modern world of using hashtags, which are sort of the keywords we come up with. But in the databases and library land, the library world, there are actually specific terms that are assigned by the Library of Congress for these articles and for resources. And those are called subject headings. So to find out what those are for this article, if it's really good for you, if really a good match for your topic, you can look on the Abstract and Details tab, and then you'll see these are the actual assigned terms for this article. And so I can borrow those as I go back and amend the search. Okay, so in this video, we have looked at using the Find It All search, going to the Advanced Search option to apply filters, and we have used some Boolean operators to combine some keywords to do a sample search. So thank you for listening.